Paul, I think you taught me this term sports washing many, many months ago, and I heard it come out of Senator Blumenthal's mouth, and I instantly thought of you. Your reaction to today's hearing?
You know, Nicole, some people think 9/11 is ancient history. Just over 20 years ago, about 6 blocks from where I'm sitting right now, we were digging up the murdered bodies of Americans. That was, a little over 20 years ago, but it's not over. Our friends are dying every day. Firefighters, first responders, people who were there are dying because of the long-term impacts of 9/11. And the people of PGA and LIV, in my view, are sellouts. They're cowards. They're traitors to their country. And they're just blowing past a group of people that they think are going to go away. They say never forget. We never forget. And we also won't go away. The question is, what do you love more, golf or your country? What do you love more, money or your country? We're not going to back down. The PGA should turn this down. Every player should leave. Americans should boycott the PGA, and the president and Congress should do all they can to block it. It's that simple.
Paul, the problem is a year ago, when the PGA didn't want its players to join the LIV Golf Tour, they made the argument you're making. The problem is actually almost more insidious. They know you're right. They've just flip-flopped. They were against LIV Golf before they were for it. So it is all about the money. How do you make sure everyone understands that?
We do what we've had to do, unfortunately, for 20 years. We shame them. And we ratchet up the volume, and we tell our stories, and we organize, and we fight back. People, hopefully haven't forgotten. A couple of years ago, we had to fight for health benefits. If not for Jon Stewart, they would have forgotten about us then. We've had to do this before. Firefighters, veterans, family members, first responders, high school kids who were at Stuyvesant High School and poisoned after 9/11 are still feeling the health impacts. We've had to do this just about every 3 to 5 years. And we've done it against huge opposition. We've done it against partisanship. We've done it against apathy. We've done it against people who said it costs too much. And now we've got to do it against a sports league. We're going to win. We're going to shame you. We're not going to go away. We're not going to just, slink off into the distance. We've done this before. We're ready to do it again. And to all the people who are inside the PGA, leave. Tiger Woods, Rory McIlroy, all the other players, you can leave. You can start something new. You can get funding from other places. You don't have to do this. Look yourselves in the mirror. Think about your country. Think about the families that not only lost people 20 years ago, but continue to lose people every day, and show us what you're made of. This is about your country. This is about your community. And this is about being on the right side of history.
There's just no hesitation at all to announce the tour event at Trump's golf course on the eve of a hearing that we are to presume they're taking seriously. It doesn't look like it to me.
It looks very colludey, and it looks bad for our national security. It looks bad for the integrity and the soul of our nation. Like, do these people have any honor? Do they have any integrity? How do they explain this to their children and to their grandchildren? And the message to the world here is, well, our major sports leagues are for sale. The White House is for sale. The president's for sale. What's next? The Department of Defense? The Pentagon? This is a really dangerous place for us to go. If I'm Vladimir Putin, I'm watching this saying, all I got to do is send bags of money on over to America, and I can just take all of it. This is really about the soul and the guts of our country and what kind of country we want to be. And to anyone who's in national leadership, whether it's corporate or political, you've got to show us where you stand. Either you're with us or you're against us. Either you're with America or you're with our enemies. I don't think the stakes could be any higher, Nicole. It's about much more than golf. It's about so much more than golf. It's about the soul of America.
Left unsaid at this point, the fact that Tuberville's political grandstanding will undoubtedly delay General Brown's Senate approval and confirmation. Back with us, the founder of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America and the host of the Independent Americans podcast, Paul Rieckhoff. He's also the founder of Operation Liberty, which seeks to protect American troops and veterans in a post-war America. Stupidity isn't a defense against racism, Paul.
No.
Yeah. I've said this before. Stupid is as stupid does, to quote another person from Alabama. But racist is as racist does. I've called him Senator Redneck. This is not an accident. This is who he is. He's showing us who he is. Many of us know a guy like him, an old racist white guy whose racism is so deeply ingrained, he doesn't really think he's racist. where he tries to explain it away. That's who this guy is. And he's also blocking military promotions for hundreds of people. So I think this is gut check time again for the Republicans and the Democrats. What are you going to do about it? You're going to let this go on? You're going to let a guy who continues to support openly white nationalism be a U.S. senator? He needs to be censured. He needs to be removed. He needs to be run out of the Senate. This can't continue because it has our enemies celebrating. It's impacting recruiting. And you put him up against somebody like General C.Q. Brown, who is a true American hero, a leader with humility and integrity, an F-16 pilot. And you can see the contrast here. But C.Q. Brown shouldn't have to deal with this guy. I mean, none of us should have to deal with this guy. He should not be in the Senate. All this is absolutely beneath the office. And I think, like many independents, I'm looking at the Republicans to do something about it.
And there's this constant accommodation of Mitch McConnell. Well, he's not as crazy as Trump. Oh, he's not as, he's not a white nationalist like Tuberville. He's done nothing. He has power, and he's chosen to do nothing about it to solve the Tommy Tuberville problem.
Well, I think McConnell's obviously the focal point here, but every single member of the Senate should be on the record on how they feel about this. Do they stand with these remarks? Will they condemn these remarks? Do they understand the way these remarks reverberate throughout the military, how they impact recruiting? I mean, imagine if you're a young black kid who's thinking about joining the military. This guy's a U.S. senator. This guy is blocking military nominations. Who in their right mind is going to want to join a military when a senator like this is in charge of policy? And there's other points to this, too, Nicole. I covered it on my podcast. I had Mayor Mobilade, who is the Colorado Springs mayor, an independent mayor, on my show. He is right now fighting with Tommy Tuberville in Alabama to keep Space Command. It's Colorado versus Alabama. So we can either have an independent, bipartisan, reasonable guy like Mayor Mobilade, or you can have Senator Redneck in Alabama who wants to ban all rights for women for the most part and welcome white nationalists into what he's building, which seems like the Confederate Army rather than the military of 2023.
Again, these are his words. He's been given more opportunities than a child would be given, frankly, to clarify what he meant. And it is the state of being Tommy Tuberville and being the Republican Party. Eddie Glaude, thank you for joining us to talk about it. Paul Rieckhoff, thank you. Speaking of your podcast, be sure to catch the latest episode of Paul's podcast, Independent Americans. It features former NBC News correspondent, our friend Luke Russer.